Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and here we are, the last Sunday in 2021. And I wanted to bring you the message of the Four Agreements, which is a book by Miguel Ruiz. And this is pretty much the first book that I read when I started my journey of personal development, personal empowerment 20 or 25 years ago. This is one of the very first books I read. And it has had such an impact in my life that I read it about once a year. And every single year, it gives me a new perspective. It reins these things in. It reminds me why I'm here. It reminds me how to walk through life, interacting with others, not just strangers, but the people that I love, and how important it is that I walk through life implementing these four agreements. So if you don't have this book, I would highly suggest that you put it at the top of your reading list for 2022. It's a simple read. It's easy to get through. And I would suggest that you sit down with it without any distractions. And I usually like to have a highlighter. And at this point, this book is highlighted almost all the way through because as time has gone on, every single time I read it, like I said, there are things that are so relevant for what I am going through or how I'm interacting or just how I've been walking through life, especially these last couple of years. This has been so important. In fact, 2021, I read this book twice, once in the middle of the summer, and then I just finished it right after Thanksgiving. I'm telling you, when you reiterate these beautiful knowledge and nuggets of wisdom, it really makes your life so much more pleasant. So let's get through these because I think honestly, that if you know these agreements and you've read this, then you know how impactful they are. And if you haven't, then maybe this will give you a little bit of a spark to ignite inside yourself that we really have the power to walk through life how we choose. So the first agreement is to be impeccable with your word. Now this, I believe, is the most important one, but it's also the most difficult because what happens is we get in these loops of what we tell ourselves and how we express ourselves to others. When we say things, when we write things, when we put our word out, this is our creative force. We are creating either love and joy and hope and beauty, or we're creating quite the opposite. If you think about the power of the word of a person, you can take somebody who puts out a word, their word that can actually cause other people to do harm to other people. So when we walk through life being impeccable with our word, it can completely shift the way we interact with people and the way people interact with us. We even need to be impeccable with the word for ourselves. I know people, and I've been guilty of this too, but I know people who actually out loud, every single time I'm with them, say something negative about themselves. And I think maybe this is a loop that's in their subconscious and they're not consciously thinking about what they're saying. And it's just their form of self-talk where they're used to saying things that are less than flattering, a little bit negative. And we all know that what we say and what we believe becomes true. These things that we think about ourselves and we put out to other people becomes true. You know, if you think you're not good enough, if you think you're, not walking through life the way you should, if you don't think your house is as clean as it should be, and you're always constantly saying things and apologizing, then this is your life. This is how it's true. And then another thing about being impeccable with your word is to not gossip about others. And this one, trust me, over the years, I've caught myself always, saying something. I hear something about a sibling. I hear something about a friend, and I can't wait to tell another person or another sibling. And I literally, this is why I read this book so many times, because it reminds me, oh, wait a minute. Do I really want to put that out there? Unless it's something positive, and maybe if it's not gossip, it's something true, like a fact, someone's moving from one state to another state, or, there's a difference between true gossip, which we all like that juicy bit of gossip that we can share with someone else. I mean, let's be honest, right? That's partly what makes us human beings. But if we can rein that in, and this is why this agreement is so difficult, because it's part of our mode of transportation is just simply, we can't wait to tell someone this about this. And when we rein that in, oh my goodness, like just that piece right there where we stop gossiping is really a beautiful part of this agreement. So remember this. The word is so powerful that one word can change a life or even destroy the lives of millions. And I'm just going to leave that there because of what is going on in the world right now. We all tune in and we watch and we read and we listen to what other people are saying and what opinions of what are happening. And we get to choose. So the human mind is like fertile ground where seeds are continually being planted. The seeds are opinions, ideas, and concepts. When you plant a seed, a thought, and it grows, the word is like a seed and the human mind is so fertile. So what is important to see, what is important is to see what kind of seeds our minds are fertile for and to prepare it to receive seeds of love. So we have to recognize what type of fertile soil is lying in our minds and what types of thoughts and words are we willing to put out there. So being impeccable with your word, such an important first agreement. I love that it's the first agreement. Now, the second agreement is to not take anything personally. And for many times as I've read through this one continues to be one of my very favorites because I think as human beings, and especially modern human beings in a world of social media where we get to see what everyone's doing, and then other people have the opportunity to pipe in and give us their opinions about what we're doing. I mean, if you're like me, you've seen arguments and horrible words going back and forth on social media platforms to even people that love each other. They can say nasty things. And this is where be impeccable with your word, first of all, comes in. And then second of all, when someone says something that that you might have the opportunity to take personally, that is a reality of their own opinion. It's their opinion. And honestly, it has nothing to do with you. So if you can learn that when someone has an opinion, even if it's directed right at you and in something negative, and they say it right to you, it's just their opinion and it has nothing to do with you. So you get to choose and you get to learn how to really grow from this. Because when you stand in your own truth and you realize that what other people think about you has nothing to do with you, this is such a beautiful agreement that will completely shift your life. I love this one so much. So as you make a habit of not taking anything personal, you won't need to place your trust in what others say or do. So your ability to walk through life won't depend on if someone gives you a compliment for what you're wearing that day, or whatever, it doesn't matter what people do. You will only need to trust yourself to make responsible choices. You are never responsible for the actions of others. You are never responsible for the actions of others. You are only responsible for you. When you truly understand and refuse to take things personally, you can hardly be hurt by the careless comments or actions of others. That one I love. I love that so much. Now the third one is also just as impactful, obviously, as they all are. This one is to not make assumptions. So, wow. This is why I come back to this book, because everything is so powerful. Like, to say I've not jumped to assumptions and conclusions that of things that are happening and watching other people's responses during this time where there are a lot of things happening right now in the world. And I've jumped to a lot of conclusions. I've made a lot of assumptions, and I've been able to really rein those in, because that's not how I want to walk through life. I don't want to walk through life full of fear, being afraid. I don't want to judge other people for how they're walking through life. It's very empowering, and it makes you completely immune when you walk through life without making assumptions. To me, I don't know if I can say it enough, that that this one, wow, like try doing this one for one day, just one day. Maybe make yourself a note card and write, don't assume, don't assume, write that and keep that in your pocket or keep it somewhere where you're going to be able to see it all day long. And I think you would be surprised at how often you make assumptions. So assumptions are nothing more than the lies that we are telling ourselves. This creates a big drama for nothing because we don't really know if something is true or not. And this can go for everything. You see someone doing something or saying something, and we immediately assume that we know what's happening. Then we make up this whole story. We convince ourselves that it's true. And then we kind of are living our life like hell because we're maybe, at least if it's something negative that we're telling ourselves. And all of that is all created right up here. So humans have a need to explain and justify everything. We have a need for knowledge, and we make assumptions to fulfill our need to know. We don't care whether the knowledge is true or not. Truth or fiction, we believe 100% in what we believe. I don't really know what else to say about that. And we go on believing it because just having the knowledge makes us feel safe. There are so many things that the mind cannot explain. We all have these questions that need answers, but instead of asking questions when we don't know something, we make all sorts of assumptions. So this is a really good agreement to realize that sometimes we simply need to ask questions. We need to have communication with other people. And this is where we don't take things personally when people tell us their opinions and their beliefs. Maybe you just need to, clear something up. Like I know as a person who comes from a huge family and has a very large circle of friends, that it's so easy to hear something that someone did and jump to a conclusion and make an assumption. And I'm telling you, this one agreement has saved so many relationships, not just in my friendship circle, but most importantly, in my family. To not make an assumption on what a sibling, and we're all grown-ups, so I know so many people who don't talk to their siblings or talk to other members of their family because they're not willing to open up that uncomfortable conversation and open communication. Instead, they make an assumption that might be true and it might not be true. What if it was true, but you were able to clear it up by opening that line of communication? So here's where bravery and courage comes in. We need to be brave enough to open up an uncomfortable conversation. And then what happens is you start to realize it's not really that hard. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. Bravery and courage, they take bravery and courage to do. But the thing is they become easier. It becomes easier and easier to be brave. And it's so empowering. And it's such a more beautiful way to walk through this life, is to not make assumptions and open those lines of communication. I love that. Now, the fourth and final one is always do your best. Now, this one is I guess I've said all these are important, and maybe even the first one is the most important, but I think the first one is the most difficult, to be impeccable with your word. But the last one, always do your best, is what ties all of the other three together, because you can't be impeccable with your word if you're not doing your best. You can't take things, not take things personally if you're not doing your best. You can't not make assumptions if you're not doing your best. And here's the thing, your best can change from day to day, and it can even change from moment to moment. It changes as we grow and mature through life. It's going to be different when you're not feeling well. If you're sick, and there's something you need to do, it's going to be different, and the way you do it, than when you're healthy. So in every single moment, as you walk through this life, always do your best. That way, you can look back on every day, every week, every year, and you will have no regrets, because you can always say that you are standing in your truth and always doing your best. To me, this is really the only way to walk through life, is always doing our best. So I just want to tell you how grateful I am that I have had these moments of clarity as I walk through my life. And I know that many of you out there are on exactly the same path, the same train of wisdom, because really we're all here for a purpose. And I believe that purpose is to learn and to grow. You know, that our soul, this right here, you know, our body is our vehicle that carries us through life. And, you know, I'm glad I discovered personal development and empowerment when it was about a few years, probably when I was about 38, 39. And I know young people who, you know, are teenagers or even in their 20s who are so far ahead of where I am and where I was. I'm grateful that when I started learning these things and really changing the way I walk through life, I'm grateful that I did when I did, because I think that's our reason. That's our reason for being here, is so that we can grow and become more spiritual and more centered and more loving and more grounded with each other. And if anything, these last 2 years have taught us that at the highest level. We get to choose how we walk through this life. And the choices that we make with the things that we think are, in a way, the most important. So the way we think, the way we express, you know, think about that. When you walk through a store, when you walk into your job, when you walk into a room with your family in it, what are you saying to them? What are you bringing out to them? Are you bringing a creative word, or are you bringing negativity and judgment and assumptions? You know, this is you know, such a beautiful time. I couldn't be more grateful. So thank you so much for tuning in as usual. I hope you have a most brilliant last week of 2021. Ready to wrap it up in a bow and lovingly send 2021 out with gratitude, and bring out 2021, bring in 2022 with all the brilliance that we are continuing to carry from 2021. You know, I've been in contact with a lot of people, especially this past year, that have reminded me how beautiful it is to be alive. And they've gone through 2021 with joy and contentment and happiness and love. And every time I'm in communication with one of those people, I feel so grateful, because I'm reminded of how beautiful this life is. So have an absolutely brilliant week. I've got a really fun message for you to bring in 2022 with the power of gratitude, because this is a spark within all of us. And I think it needs to be brought to the forefront for a beautiful new year of 2022. So thanks again for tuning in. I hope the rest of your day is beautiful. Your week is amazing. I love you, and I'm so glad to be connected with you. So have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.